Modern sealants promise decades of protection, yet timber rot remains one of the most common failures in contemporary construction. Beams decay from the inside out, posts soften at ground level, and coatings crack while moisture continues its quiet work beneath the surface. Medieval carpenters faced harsher climates, fewer resources, and no industrial chemistry, yet their timber frames still stand across Europe. Cathedrals, halls, barns, bridges and ships survive not because they were lucky, but because medieval craftsmen relied on a preservation system that addressed wood at its most vulnerable points. What they swore by was not a single product, but a method rooted in breathability, penetration, and patience. It is a method modern sealants still fail to match. Why medieval carpenters rejected surface sealing as a solution. Medieval builders understood that rot does not start on the surface. It begins inside the wood, where moisture lingers and oxygen fluctuates. Sealing timber with impermeable coatings, well, that just traps moisture within, creating ideal conditions for fungi. Medieval carpenters avoided this mistake by using treatments that penetrated deeply and remained breathable. Their goal was not to encase wood, but to condition it so decay organisms could not thrive. How slow seasoning changed wood before it ever met a tool. Before any treatment was applied, medieval timber was seasoned slowly. Trees were felled in winter when sap levels were low and insect activity minimal. Logs were left intact and stacked to dry over years, not weeks. This process reduced internal sugars and stabilized the grain, making the wood less attractive to fungi and less prone to cracking. Modern builders can apply this principle by air seasoning critical timbers in shaded, ventilated areas and avoiding rush drying for structural components. So, why did pine tar become the gold standard of medieval protection, you might wonder? Well, the substance medieval carpenters trusted above all else was, in fact, pine tar. Distilled slowly from resin-rich pine under low oxygen, pine tar penetrated deeply into wood fibres when applied warm, making it incredibly effective. It repelled water, inhibited microbial growth, and, remained flexible through all those seasonal temperature changes. Unlike modern sealants, it did not crack or peel, which made it, honestly, a remarkable choice for its time. It aged with the wood instead of fighting it. Viking ships, medieval roofs, and exposed beams were coated repeatedly over decades, building protection gradually. A modern application involves warming pine tar, thinning it with raw linseed oil, and brushing it into dry wood so it soaks rather than sits on the surface. How breathability allowed medieval timber to outlast sealed wood. Medieval carpenters understood that wood must breathe. Moisture inevitably enters timber through rain, condensation, or humidity. What really matters is whether it can escape. Pine tar, oils and waxes repel liquid water while allowing vapour to move outward. Modern synthetic sealants often block this movement, trapping moisture beneath the coating. Over time, this accelerates internal decay. Using breathable treatments allows wood to regulate moisture naturally, dramatically extending its lifespan. Now, you might wonder why controlled charring actually strengthened wood, rather than making it weaker. Well, it's all about the way the process changes the surface, forming a protective barrier that enhances durability. You know, fire wasn't something medieval carpenters feared, at least not when it was used properly. They would lightly char the ends of posts, beams close to the ground, and any exposed surfaces, creating a carbonized layer that offered extra protection. This carbonized layer did quite a lot, honestly. It resisted insects, fungi, and water absorption, and it also reduced how much oxygen could get through. Plus, charring made the surface harder, giving it better resistance to abrasion over time. A practical modern step involves, lightly charring ground contact wood, then brushing off any loose carbon, and following up with a penetrating oil or tar treatment. So, here's an interesting bit: how medieval carpenters actually designed joints and foundations to defeat rot. Even the best treatment, well, it fails if wood sits in water. Medieval builders, clever folks, avoided direct soil contact whenever possible. Posts were set on stone pads or gravel beds that drain moisture away. Well, modern builders, you see, can really take a page from the old playbook by elevating posts above grade, improving drainage, and carefully designing details that prevent water from lingering at joints. It's about using what we've learned to make structures last longer. Now, you might wonder, why was maintenance continuous rather than reactive? It's an interesting point, isn't it? Medieval carpenters honestly didn't believe in permanent solutions. Timber was inspected regularly, and roof beams were re-tarred when needed. Even ships, well, they were hauled out every year for treatment. It was all about staying ahead of trouble, not just waiting for it to happen. Modern builders often rely on a single application of sealant and assume the job is done. But adopting a maintenance mindset, where treatments are renewed before failure, aligns closely with medieval practice and, well, dramatically improves durability. How lime quietly supported timber longevity. In timber-framed buildings, lime mortar played a supporting role. Lime creates an alkaline environment hostile to fungal growth while remaining breathable. Modern cement-based materials, by contrast, trap moisture and accelerate decay. Using lime-based mortars and plasters around wood can significantly extend its lifespan, especially in restoration and natural building projects. Why medieval methods still outperform modern sealants today? Modern sealants attempt to block moisture completely, an impossible task over decades of weather exposure. Medieval methods accepted moisture as inevitable and focused instead on controlling its movement and impact. Penetration, breathability, intelligent design, and regular care proved more effective than impermeable barriers. This is why medieval timber continues to outperform chemically treated wood in many environments. So, what does all this knowledge actually offer to builders today? Well, it gives us time-tested principles that, honestly, can still make a real difference if we're willing to listen. The method medieval carpenters swore by was, simple but demanding. Harvest at the right time. Season slowly. Use penetrating, breathable treatments like pine tar and natural oils. Char where exposure is unavoidable. Design for drainage and airflow, and, of course, maintain consistently. These steps require patience, not chemicals, and they remain as effective today as they were centuries ago. It's really quite remarkable, isn't it? If you value historically proven knowledge that still works in the modern world, subscribe to Ancient Know-How. Share this guide with fellow history and survival enthusiasts and help keep these enduring building traditions alive for generations to come.